Give me 1 minute. Okay. I'm sure you've heard already, and I did a 2.5 hour in detail video on the whole Golovkin situation, on the whole Golovkin's career, on Kell Brook's career, and how this fight came about. So what the WBC does is, if you're fighting for a WBC title, you have to be involved in a mandatory 30-day weigh-in and a mandatory 7-day weigh-in. And I forgot how much you have to weigh under to be able to make weight, you know, as far as the WBC regulations is concerned. But during the 7-day weigh-in, you have WBC, WBA, IBF, 160-pound champion of the world, IBL, Gennady Golovkin at 162.9 pounds. You have Kell Brook, 147-pound IBF champion, weighing in at 167.8 pounds. By September the 6th, 2016, it is now September the 3rd. By September the 9th, 2016, it's now September the 3rd, 2016, 10:48 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live with coming soon, FightView360.com, and I cover every single major fight live. So here's the issue. Let's just do a bit of a recap. This fight didn't just, it wasn't planned. Now, what happened was, when we heard that Amir Khan was going to be taking on Canelo, Kell Brook didn't like the fact that people were talking about how big the balls was of Amir Khan, because they said, we was all saying, oh shit, a guy with a chin like him, going up to fight Canelo, he's going to get knocked out. And surely he did. So Kell Brook went to Eddie Hearn, his promoter of Matchroom Promotions, and said, I want Golovkin, I want Golovkin at 157 pounds. And Eddie said, he basically started laughing. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But there was heavy negotiations to for Kell Brook to fight Jesse Vargas in a unification for the IBF and the WBO title at 147 pounds this month, on this same Golovkin versus Brook date, or later on in the month. The point is, that fight was supposed to happen this month. So there was money issues, and in order for that fight to happen, from my understanding, Jesse Vargas would have gotten a bigger purse, just because of Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn just wanted to get him to fight a live body. Because when you fight Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, and Kevin Bizier, fans were getting pissed, and they was going to string Eddie Hearn. They was going to string it. Thank you, Eddie Hearn. Thank you, bro. They was going to string him up. So, that fight fell through. But also, on the other end of things, you had Golovkin, who was in actually, the fight was pretty much finalized. All Chris Eubank Jr. had to do was sign the contract. So he was supposed to be fighting Chris Eubank Jr., and Chris Eubank Jr. was going to make super career high money, and it was going to be on pay-per-view. But something happened with the father of Chris Eubank Jr., Chris Eubank Sr., former world champion, where he tried to somewhat, if you don't know who this man is, look him up, Al Heyman. He tried to be like the Al Heyman of the event. So Eddie Hearn wasn't having that shit. For example, this is what Eddie Hearn confirmed, that he wanted to double the ticket prices of Joshua versus what is it, Brazil or something like that. He wanted to have like security at the hotels and everything, for like his son. He wanted to what else? Oh, he wanted to choose his own commentators. What does he say? Who did he say he wanted? Did he do that? Did he say he didn't want Adam Smith, who just so happens to be isn't he the head of Sky Sports Boxing? He said he didn't want him commentating. He wanted Barry McGuigan. Who did he say? I forgot if it was Adam Smith or was it? It was somebody. He said he didn't want commentating. And basically, the demands that he was making, there was even rumors that he wanted the referees to be sleeveless. He wanted the referees and the commentators to take their sleeves off and shit and wear high leather boots. It just was outrageous. So Eddie Hearn was like, yo, you're not doing this shit over here. No, because if I let you do it, then all these other motherfucking fighters going to be doing it. And also, you're not a promoter. You don't know how to do the numbers and shit. You don't know, we ain't doing that. So, You know, they needed to fill that date. Sky Sports Boxing needed to fill that date, or Kell Brook wouldn't have been able to get a fight whenever, basically. Because remember, you can't just go to these networks and say, yeah, well, Kell Brook not going to fight on this date, but give us this date. Because you don't know what that network is doing on that date. You know? You don't know what that network's got planned. You know, so therefore you have to wait for the networks to give you the date. You know? So, you know, the Jesse Vargas fight fell through. And the Golovkin Eubank fight fell through. So Eddie Hearn went to Kell Brook and said, look, remember you said you want to fight Golovkin? You know, and Kell Brook said, yeah, I remember, Eddie. And word is, you know, I don't know if it's true, but this is what I heard. I heard that Kell Brook saw that he was going to be making $5 million, you know, and signed immediately. Said he was going to be making $5 million. That's what he's supposed to be making. I don't know if it's true or not, and I believe he's probably going to make that much. You know, this is going to be a big fight. Maybe Golovkin about $5 million, $6 million US. You know, Brook, you know, about 4 or 5 million. You know, but I've heard that once he saw the contract, he was like, man, just sign that shit off. Also, you have to factor in that Kell Brook has had some issues making 147 pounds. You know, it is heavily rumored, and somewhat, you may not believe me, but I don't know for sure, but to me, I really believe it because it's coming from a credible source, that Kell Brook wasn't even injured. Remember, he was supposed to fight Diego Chavez, what was that, in December or January? Or March? I don't remember. And that fight fell through because some alleged rib injury that happened, you know, in sparring or whatever. But what I was really hearing was that he was having trouble, or he was going to have trouble making that 147 pounds. So instead of him getting stripped, they had to just scrap the fight, you know. And now look at him, you know. Doesn't that make a little more sense now, where, you know, the 30-day weigh-in, he's weighing in at 176. People say he's walking around at 185. You know, and then you see he's 168, you know, 7 days before the fight, you know, 6 days before the weigh-in. You know, that kind of makes sense to me that, you know, he would have trouble making that 147 pounds, you know. So I feel he would make the 147 for the right fight. And he has said that he would, you know, go back down, you know, if he loses, as you see, wins, not guaranteed yet, if he loses to Golovkin and fight Errol Spence at 147. I'm not too sure about that, you know. Too much of a high risk and reward. But then what Kell Brook has shown us is that by fighting Golovkin, you know, you have, like, for you to say that he's scared of fighters, you know, when you're fighting a guy like Golovkin, you have to throw that out the window. So I can't say no longer that I feel Kell Brook is scared to fight Errol Spence. It's just that Errol Spence is going to have to bring his ass over to the UK to fight Kell Brook. And I'm sure the hardcore boxing fans, especially how passionate the UK fans are over there for boxing, you know, they can put Errol Spence, from my personal opinion, you know, they can put Errol Spence in something, you know, I can't say Wembley. I can't say Wembley. But I know, you know, from what I've learned is that the UK fans have a bigger, you know, a more passion for the sport of boxing right now than American fans do. So a guy like Gennady can go over to the UK and headline a card, and that shit will sell out, you know, because they just enjoy, you know, boxing. So I'm thinking if Errol Spence come over there, they can do some pretty big numbers. But, you know, you have to question, well, he may have trouble making that 147 in, and I think that's what it's going to be. You know, if he loses to Golovkin, you know, he may not go down. He may go to 147. You know, but Eddie Hearn is not the type of guy, you know, to have his fighters dropping belts. You know, so another thing is, like, what strategy is Kell Brook going to use? Like, what is the muscle for? Now, how is he going to react to taking one of those left hooks to the body? You know, how is he going to react? How is he going to react to trying to get in on the inside of that jab? You know, how is he going to react when he takes one of those awkward right hooks right on the top of his head? You know how Golovkin hit you on the top of your head? How is he going to react to that? You know, that's what we want to see. Like, what is the weight for? Now, also his conditioning with that weight. Remember, this is his first fight at full 160 pounds. He's fighting at full 160. Even if he survives the first 6 rounds, 7 rounds, you know, what is he going to look like later on in the fight? Now, my personal opinion is I really feel that he's going to try to fight Golovkin on the inside. I really feel that's what's going to be the plan, because you don't want to be, you know, out there trying to trade in the middle of the ring with Golovkin. And Golovkin don't fight on the back foot. You know, he's coming forward, and Kell Brook has issues fighting on the back foot. You don't see him backing up, so they're going to be, you know, they're going to be right there. You know, they're going to be right there. This is a very interesting fight in so many different ways, and a lot of fans don't respect it, you know, because you know back during the during the 70s and the 80s and the 60s and even the 90s, you know, you wasn't having like so much backlash for fighters fighting so-called smaller fighters. You know, if you come into the ring at the same size, you know, it's hard to explain. I don't want to get into it. You know, because when you look at guys like, you know, Roberto Duran fought a fucking cruiserweight, you know, later in his career, if I'm correct. You know, when you look at, you know, like throughout history, fighters have moved up and took chances. They didn't blame the bigger fighter. You know, they didn't blame the bigger fighter. Bernard Hopkins said it best in an interview with Larry Merchant. Who was it? Eastman? I forgot who was it that he fought? Well, he was like, look, you know, at one point in time, there wasn't even, you know, like a junior middleweight division. It was either welterweight or it was middleweight, you know? You know? So, I'm super hyped for the fight and excited. Go down to my description box. You'll see all the links to my social media. I'm promoting the fight heavy on social media. It's going to get worse. I'm going to be spamming the shit out of people on your feed. I'm warning you now. Like during the week, you know, especially since I'm back now, I'm going to be spamming the shit out of your page. But also, you can also count on me to, if you can't watch the fight, I'll be uploading round by round highlights to my Instagram. You know, and that's TST Controversy for T Street Controversy on Instagram. Like I said, all the links are right down below in the description box. I am T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. Oh, before I forget, the WBA title is not on the line. It's only Kell Brook can only win the WBC or the IBF. You know, and I have a feeling that the WBA is going to order Golovkin to fight Jacobs, win or loss. So that's going to be interesting. Please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at T Street Live, Facebook at T Street Controversy, Instagram at TST Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I will be seeing you. I'll be pumping out more videos, but we'll be talking about this a lot more during the week. Please subscribe.